Take a deep breath. Right now, the air filling your lungs is roughly 21% oxygen. It is a perfectly calibrated chemical cocktail, refined over millions of years to sustain human life without destroying it. But if we were to suddenly double that concentration, shifting our atmosphere to nearly 42% oxygen, you would not transform into a genetic superhero. Within a matter of days, your lungs would fill with plasma. Your DNA would begin to literally rust from the inside out, and the very world around you would transform into an unstable, planetary tinderbox. This introduces a bizarre cosmic paradox. Oxygen is the absolute foundation of complex life on Earth, yet doubling its presence triggers an immediate countdown toward global mass extinction. To understand why this life-giving gas turns into a weapon of absolute destruction, we have to look past the surface of what we think we know about human biology and atmospheric physics. Our collective cultural instinct tells us that more of a good thing is always better. If you look at the multi-billion-dollar wellness industry, oxygen is marketed as the ultimate healer. We see athletes breathing pure oxygen on the sidelines to accelerate recovery, and we read about hyperbaric chambers treating deep tissue wounds. It is easy to look at this concept and visualize an idyllic, supercharged version of Earth. We imagine humans running marathons without breaking a sweat, chronic illnesses vanishing overnight, and our brains operating at unprecedented levels of cognitive clarity. Even our technology would seem to benefit on the surface, as internal combustion engines drawing in double the oxidizer would instantly double their horsepower, turning ordinary sports cars into high-performance dragsters. But this vision of an evolutionary paradise is a complete illusion. The dark reality of chemistry is that oxygen is not a passive, benevolent fuel. It is an intensely corrosive, highly reactive element that tears through molecular bonds with terrifying efficiency. The only reason we survive it at all is because our atmosphere is heavily diluted by a massive, inert cushion of 78% nitrogen. When you remove that protective buffer and double the volume of oxygen gas in the atmosphere, the clock starts ticking immediately. The first 5 seconds of this new reality would feel like an absolute rush. As your lungs draw in the double-strength air, the partial pressure of oxygen in your respiratory system shifts from its standard baseline up to nearly 0.42 atmospheres absolute. Your brain registers an immediate, intoxicating surge of alertness. Your blood oxygen saturation levels lock at a flawless 100%, forcing your mitochondria to operate at absolute maximum capacity. Your muscles feel completely weightless, and physical exhaustion briefly becomes a thing of the past. Yet, even during this initial wave of euphoria, the physical world around you is already beginning to break down. If you look closely at any open flame on Earth, from a simple scented candle to a backyard fire pit, you would see them instantly flare up to twice their original size. The internal combustion engines in every car on the road would experience a massive spike in raw power. But within minutes, their cooling systems would fail completely as the intense cylinder temperatures literally begin to melt the aluminum engine blocks from the inside out. As the first 10 minutes pass, a strange psychological shift would settle over humanity. Because the relative concentration of nitrogen in the air has dropped significantly, the delicate blood-gas balance in your body changes. You would find yourself trapped in a state of constant, unexplained neural stimulation, feeling hyper-alert but structurally anxious, as if your central nervous system is perpetually preparing for a threat that you cannot see. And that threat is much closer than you think, hiding in the very clothes you are wearing. In an atmosphere with 42% oxygen, the minimum ignition energy required to spark a fire drops exponentially. Under normal conditions, pulling off a synthetic jacket creates a harmless crackle of static electricity. In this double oxygen world, that tiny, invisible static pop carries more than enough energy to instantly ignite the fabric of your clothes, turning an everyday movement into a severe flash burn hazard. By the time you reach the 24-hour mark, the physical euphoria of the supercharged atmosphere disappears entirely. It is replaced by the agonizing onset of pulmonary irritation. Your respiratory lining is simply not built to handle continuous oxidative stress at this scale. You would develop a deep, persistent cough, accompanied by a burning sensation in your chest, a condition known to military diving physiologists and hyperbaric experts as tracheobronchitis. The continuous oversaturation of oxygen molecules causes your cells to produce an overwhelming volume of reactive oxygen species. These are unstable, highly destructive molecules that your body's natural antioxidant defenses can no longer neutralize. If you were to look into a laboratory microscope at this stage, you would witness a horrifying cellular breakdown. For decades, scientists believed that oxygen toxicity only damaged tissues through the slow accumulation of these free radicals. However, a landmark medical study completely altered our understanding of this process. Researchers discovered that when atmospheric oxygen levels cross a critical threshold, the gas directly attacks and oxidizes the iron-sulfur clusters housed deep within your essential cellular proteins. These clusters are the literal engines of your DNA repair systems and metabolic pathways. When oxygen forces them to oxidize, the proteins degrade instantly, completely halting your cell's ability to duplicate or repair themselves. Your tissues are quite literally rusting at a molecular level. By the end of the second week, this internal decay manifests as chronic, systemic hyperoxia. The micro-thin walls of the tiny air sacs in your lungs, known as alveoli, suffer so much structural damage from the oxidative rust that they begin to break down. Plasma from your bloodstream starts to leak through the ruptured membranes, slowly filling the air spaces. This triggers a cruel medical reality called pulmonary edema. Without any external injury or illness, you would begin to drown from the inside out, gasping for air while surrounded by the most oxygen-rich environment in human history. Your organs would suffer irreversible systemic damage, drastically accelerating the physical aging process and cutting the human lifespan down to a fraction of what it is today. But let us assume you manage to survive this biological siege by retreating into specialized, low-oxygen filtration shelters. The moment you look out the window, you would realize that human biology is only half the problem. The natural world outside has begun to rewrite the rules of evolution, unlocking a prehistoric cheat code that transforms the global ecosystem into a living nightmare. To understand what happens next, we have to look back 300 million years to the Carboniferous period. During this ancient era, Earth experienced a massive atmospheric anomaly where oxygen levels peaked at roughly 35%. This occurred because white rot fungi had not yet evolved to digest lignin, the tough structural material in wood. Dead trees piled up across the globe without rotting, burying vast quantities of carbon and leaving an unprecedented surplus of oxygen in the atmosphere. That ancient, high-oxygen environment allowed arthropods to bypass their biological size limits. Insects do not have lungs or active circulatory systems to pump oxygen through their bodies. Instead, they rely on passive tracheal breathing tubes that run along their flanks, allowing oxygen to slowly diffuse inward through their tissues. In our modern world, low oxygen levels mean these tubes can only push gas so far, keeping insects small. But in a world where oxygen is doubled, that diffusion barrier is completely vaporized. Over generations, modern insects would scale up to 10 times their current size to match the hyper-efficient atmosphere. You would see the return of creatures like Meganeura, a predatory dragonfly with a 2.5-foot wingspan, navigating the skies with unmatched speed and agility due to their hypercharged muscle metabolism. On the ground, you would find yourself sharing the planet with creatures resembling Arthropleura, an ancient millipede that grew to over 8 feet long. The global food chain would be entirely inverted, turning humans from apex predators into vulnerable targets for giant, hyper-oxygenated invertebrates. Yet, as terrifying as an 8-foot predatory millipede sounds, you would never actually live long enough to encounter one. Because while biology is busy scaling up the monsters of the deep past, the fundamental laws of physics are preparing to unleash the ultimate twist. You see, the most shocking truth of a double oxygen Earth has absolutely nothing to do with lung damage or giant insects. It comes down to the terrifying physics of hyperflammability. Oxygen is not a fuel source on its own, meaning it cannot spontaneously combust without a spark. But it is the ultimate accelerator. When fire safety engineers model atmospheric behavior, they look for a very specific tipping point, known as the 30% oxygen threshold. Below 30%, living ecosystems possess a natural defense mechanism against fire. The moisture locked inside green leaves, wet grass, and living tree trunks acts as a thermal barrier, slowing down the spread of wildfires and allowing forests to recover. But the moment atmospheric oxygen crosses that 30% threshold, the chemistry of combustion changes entirely. At 42% oxygen, the moisture inside living plant tissue is no longer enough to suppress a fire. Green, vibrant rainforests lose their natural resistance and become just as volatile as dry, dead autumn leaves. Items that we consider completely safe in our daily lives transform into highly explosive materials. A standard piece of steel wool, which normally requires direct contact with a heavy flame to burn, would ignite violently from a simple static pop. A damp cotton towel left out on a counter would burn with the ferocity of gunpowder. Even human hair, coated in its natural oils or everyday styling products, becomes so volatile that walking too close to a friction-heavy surface could instantly set your head ablaze. In this environment, a single lightning strike during a routine summer storm would no longer cause a localized forest fire. It would trigger a detonative, continent-clearing firestorm. Because the rate of flame spread multiplies by a factor of 4 under these conditions, these fires would move across the landscape faster than the speed of sound, consuming entire ecosystems before they have a chance to adapt. The intense heat would create its own localized weather systems, generating fire tornadoes that channel pure oxygen down into the inferno, accelerating the destruction. Within a few short years, every major forest, jungle, and grassland on the planet would be reduced to ash. The world would no longer be a living, breathing planet. It would become a charred, sterile wasteland, a global fuel tank that burned until there was nothing left to consume. Human civilization would be utterly obliterated, not by a lack of resources or a cosmic impact, but by the runaway abundance of the very element we rely on for our next breath. When we look up at the sky, it is easy to view our atmosphere as just a random collection of transparent gases, an accidental backdrop to the story of human progress. But the science of hyperoxia proves that our planet is balanced on a knife edge. Nitrogen is not just filler gas that takes up space in our atmosphere. It is the cosmic emergency brake of our planet, a vital shield that keeps the destructive fire of oxygen under control. Without that delicate balance, life on Earth is completely impossible. Suddenly, that boring, ordinary 21% oxygen atmosphere we breathe every single day sounds absolutely perfect. If you want to see what happens if we step off the edge of another terrifying cosmic scenario and stop the Earth from spinning for just 5 seconds, click here and I will see you there.